All right, Ben, so thanks for joining me. I wanted to tell you about a concept that I've been thinking about, and I didn't have a name for it, even though I've heard it referred to lots of different times. So one of the things that I may find is that somebody else already has named this, cataloged it, there are books about it, and there are books about it, but there's some ways that I'm approaching that might be different or that may all have been done. So anyway, here's the point. In your head, you have a map of existence. So I wanted to name the map of existence that people keep in their heads. And I was like, well, it's like a cartograph, but it's not really a chart of like a real world, because the map that you have in your head includes how you feel about things. So that the map of existence that you interact with doesn't just, say, don't touch that because it's hot. It might also say, don't touch that because it's hot, and you'll feel stupid for touching it afterwards, right? Which might be connected to someone insulting you when you did something foolish when you were a kid, right, which would bring back feelings of your, cruel older brother, or your mother-in-law, or anything like that, any of those things. So you have this map in your head. It's not a cartograph, it's a map of existence. So I took the word that a lot of philosophers use as a prefix for existence. I call it an ontograph. So now, in your ontograph, in your head, you can picture how things are, and you're wrong. Because when you picture something, you picture your impression of it, and the way you encountered it, and all the assumptions you made about it. Indeed. So you also have a lot of instincts that tie into it, and a lot of training that ties into it. So when you go walk through a hall that you've walked through many times in the dark, say to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and nobody told you they cut a piece out of the floor, you're expecting to walk the ontograph in your head, and instead you fall and bark your shin or fall onto the first floor or whatever happens. Yeah. Right? So you've got an ontograph, and what you're actually navigating in your head is that ontograph, not the objective world. Of course, sometimes you'll have an experience where you have to remap your ontograph because the objective world presents something new, or you can recontextualize something like, say you get some glasses. Say you were colorblind and you get colorblind glasses, and now you can see all the colors of things, and you're like, oh, peaches were orange all this time, right? Yeah. So you're constantly updating your ontograph, okay? And it's wrong, but it also includes things that are purely subjective, if there's such a thing. Because part of what you're trying to do is map the objective world in your ontograph, but part of what you're doing is just existing in it and being like feeling what it's like to be in the objective world, but also maybe feeling what it's like to be in a subjective world. A lot of time, maybe you create a fantasy. I had a huge romance for the Sylvan aesthetic of Robin Hood when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be so amazing to live in a treehouse and like with all my friends around, and marry a princess and stick it to the man, like Robin Hood, right? And I had just adored this, and those feelings of affinity for aesthetics there. I mean, and you can get farther than that away from the objective world. You can go so far away, right? But all those things that don't exist in the objective world, or that are our misapprehensions or our abstractions from the objective world, those all live in your ontograph. Yeah. And you relate to them, and you react to them, and you make decisions according to them all the time. So I wanted to know if you've ever heard of anything like this, and where it came from, or if you just had your own sort of feelings when I bring this up, like what your experience.
Okay, well, that's a great question. And some of the terms that you're using, to be honest with you, some of the terms are familiar. Mm-hmm. In fact, many of them are familiar. a little. Some of them are not as familiar
Okay.
with my studies, and at least among the philosophers that I've studied, philosophies and just various things that I've studied and things that I've encountered as far as the classics are concerned. But you speak of a topic that's really quite fascinating, and so you're taking me into a really super cool realm, and so I'm ready to enjoy this for a little bit. So, for me, my take of what you are describing and talking about, and I agree with you that many of us we see and understand things individually. And with each of us, our ontograph is going to be different than other people's ontographs. I think, in a sense, that we all share a similar ontograph as far as experiences, as far as things that we've studied or read, how we understand and see the world.
Yeah.
But because there are certain common things that we all share and experiences that we share that we can relate to, but the way we see it and feel it may be more complex or deeper and more beautiful. And the way the greats have described it, at least some of them, is they use the term beauty. And that's really interesting, how beauty is within. And Shakespeare refers to it. Quintilian referred to it. Of course, Shakespeare being one of the greatest, I think, in my opinion, one of the greatest philosophers. I will call him a philosopher.
Sure.
He is one of the greatest philosophers of human nature and understanding human nature.
Yeah.
Okay. So where am I going with this? This is what I'm trying to.
You can go anywhere you want.
You can go anywhere I want. So let's have fun with it. Here we go.
Yeah.
So beauty is a powerful concept, and as I pondered over it for many years, this is how I see it through my ontograph and my understanding of how I see the world from within, rather than what I see from the world without, within myself. Because there is a beauty, a glory that exists within myself and within my mind, and the way I see when I analyze and I visualize and I not only see things, but I feel them.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. It's very powerful. Carl Jung, he said this, and it kind of relates to this. And I have these interconnected. My ontograph I have some interconnections, and although they may not make perfect sense, but they're interconnected for me, personally. But he talks about how consciousness is a precondition to people. Consciousness is a precondition to being. And Socrates talked about this, about being. That was a topic that they discuss a lot, about being. What does it mean to be?
Yeah.
And being. And I think it's connected to this ontograph thing.
It totally is.
Is it not?
Yeah.
It totally is. And
yeah, that's
to really being who you were meant to be, there comes a point where you come to a state of consciousness. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? So, okay, I know. And this is where the subjective, I think for someone to be subjective, for me, it's more solid for me.
Okay.
Consciousness is. Because I connect it to spiritual things.
Okay.
Okay. And as I connect it to spiritual things, I see things clearly, and I believe I have my consciousness, my true consciousness. And through that lens, I'm able to see and understand my world from within, but I can see the world more clearly. My vision's enlarged because I'm in a state of consciousness where I'm being who I'm meant to be through the way I live. And that's where the beauty comes into this subject. That's why it's connected to, at least my mind is connected to being.
Yeah.
And to consciousness. And that is that Socrates made a statement. He said, I pray thee, O God, that I might be beautiful within. And so the beauty and the power, the true power within man is in the way he lives and who he becomes.
Okay.
Through his spiritual self.
Yeah. And
let's start there. That's what I have more.
That's perfectly fine. I like that. You were talking about how sort of your I have been talking to myself about the feeling of my ontograph expanding. So when I'm learning, it creates a kind of excitement, and that's the experience that I have. Okay.
Yes.
And my ontograph expands because either a piece of my ontograph becomes a higher resolution version of that. Like I always knew what a tin can was, but I didn't know that it was actually made out of steel and lined with vinyl. I didn't even know about the vinyl until 2 years ago. That keeps the food from reacting with the metal, and creates, an airtight barrier inside of it, which is why, they don't all go bad, but every once in a while they do, it's like now, every time I learn something, my ontograph gets more data, or like it gets more higher resolution in an area, or it straight up expands. And sometimes I'll have an experience where my ontograph just gets big. Like when I realize my influence over the future, because I have children, my ontograph, I have to think about what are they going to do. Oh, it's my responsibility to, guide them in doing, what I think is good, because I have a moral sense inside of myself. I think everyone does, of course. But like, then my ontograph multiplies because I'm not one person. I'm me, and all of my influence over all the people that I encounter or don't encounter, like the people that I influence that influence them, that just makes my ontograph really get very big. And it creates sometimes when I feel my ontograph expand, that feeling feels to me like awe. And when someone encounters some tremendous bigness, like the first time someone looks out like on a spacewalk, or when, in the story of Moses meeting God at the burning bush, he was like shook, right. Or when somebody describes just realizing some enormous epiphany, their ontograph gets big and they express a feeling of awe. And I think that in a sense, your ontograph may be a virtual organ, because clearly it's attached to your body. I didn't know what this felt like until I did this, right? Like I can see you smiling and not.
Okay,
right?
Well, this is going into something that you gave me an epiphany.
Oh,
go on. But continue. I want you to finish your thought.
I think you got everything I was just saying, and now I'm super curious.
Holy cow! I just saw something that was cool.
Okay,
continue though. I want to hear your own.
Shoot, where was I going? All right. So
so it expands. Expands.
My ontograph can expand, and I can do that by experiencing things. I mean, just through the procession of time, I may have a day when I'm less conscious, I'm going through the motions, or I may have a day when I'm more conscious, and on those days that I actually think things through, where I'm being deliberate, where I consider the course of my actions, maybe I got better sleep, whatever it is, that's all still tied to my body and how my body's doing, and whether I'm capable of like using my brain. And yet, the ontograph expands even though my body stays the same size. And I have experiences inside my ontograph that aren't what's the word that means that it's real? So they aren't objective. All of the things that happen in my ontograph are subjective.
Yeah.
And my body, in tandem with my spirit or whatever you might say exists beyond the body, is creating this virtual organ where things happen and I have experiences and things can feel like things. And instead of having an oxytocin hit, I feel a bond with someone. You know, instead of feeling an endorphin rush, I am excited. And like, it's a virtual organ where experiences happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes, irrespective of what's happening in the objective world. Some people who are very allergic to something might see a plastic version of that and break out in hives.
Mm-hmm.
Their body is reacting to an event that did not occur in the objective world. It occurred in their ontograph, which is a virtual organ, which is affected by and can affect the rest of their organs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I believe that.
So that's all I want to say about that.
It is that's amazing. Okay. How do I frame this? Say this. Oh, this is incredible. Love this. I don't get that. I don't talk like
I know, right?
With everybody, because I don't have, seriously.
Yeah.
How many? This kind of goes along with what we're talking about. Just a quick side note.
Yeah.
Say this. I just had another epiphany. But how many people live in a world of shallowness?
I mean, I do almost all the time.
Okay, but what you're describing to me,
yeah,
I get a sense from you that I don't think you live as shallowly as you think.
Oh, sure.
There's
but like 20 minutes ago, I was optimizing a website for a fashion company.
Okay, see, well, okay, yes, right, but from what
which is
you're
great.
describing,
I'm happy for that.
It's good. You're doing a good thing. But you're talking about something, and then you thought over this. I mean, this isn't just something that just one day you're just like, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's over for a period of time. I'm sure you pondered over these very thoughts.
Yeah.
And this being as you term it, a real organ, which is really fascinating. And so this is where I'm going to take this. This is where I think. Now I know. This is really interesting because I never considered it. I don't know this way. So I'm going to use a mathematical reference here, and you've probably seen this.
Okay.
It's really fascinating, and I don't remember the term that's used that's associated with it.
Okay.
But mathematicians have discovered this, and it was incredible. I think it was back in the 70s or 80s where they discovered this, and it is so incredible. The patterns that are contained in this is so unbelievable.
Okay.
And maybe you've seen it, and it's actually.
Are you talking about fractal patterns?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, so you've seen the fractal patterns, the
Mandelbrot set,
the Mandelbrot set,
and the Julia set.
Now we can go into that.
Sure,
I'm
absolutely.
glad you're familiar with that. Perfect. So you understand what I'm referring to, the reference. So as you go deeper and deeper and deeper, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
And yet you have the symbol. Okay, so that in and of itself blows my mind.
Sure, of course.
Infinitely goes.
Yep.
And so when you speak of the ontograph, it being a living thing, we are continuing to expand our understanding and our ontograph, our perceptions, and all of that within our minds and within our being, that it continues to grow, to expand, to develop, and to enlarge, like that universe of those numbers, and it can go on forever.
Yeah.
And God has reached a point. Now this is where his ontograph is a perfect ontograph, where he sees all at once, before, now, and forever. Somehow he can see that, and our ontograph continues to expand. In the process of expansion, it is exciting.
Yeah.
I had an experience, where a mentor of mine, he says, once you decide to do something about what God wants you to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking the big thing that God wants you to do.
Okay. Maybe you'd call it life purpose or something?
Yeah, mission, whatever you want to call it, life purpose, mission, and all that it entails. All of the decisions, all of the sacrifices, all of the difficulties, all of the everything that you can imagine that is included within that mission that would be required
Yeah.
of you to do what God wants you to do through that mission, for that mission. So this is what happened. And my Ontograph grew incredibly. And it was massive. It was incredible. Life changing. It changed my life. Hence our being right here in this room today. I would not be here right now having this conversation with you had I not made this decision that I did many years ago.
Okay.
Here's what happened. So my mentor, the way he described it, he says, once you make that decision, he says, I believe the universe shifts. Shifts. Changes. That night when I went home, as I thought about, I pondered over it and the gravity of it all. And in the very moment, as I was thinking about this, and God, as I was thinking and communicating with God about this matter and saying, because I needed to make a decision for myself. I had the information presented to me. I had seen and felt and understood that I needed to make a decision about my mission. Okay. That night, as I laid there and as I pondered over this incredible question of, and if God had asked me, are you willing to do everything that I ask you required? Are you willing to do it? And I'll be honest, I hesitated. Yeah, right. I'm like, this is a big decision, Lord.
And do you know yourself well enough to say yes?
And he understands that. He knows I'm still, we're human, right?
Yep.
But,
in a British accent.
But I really meant it.
Yeah.
And I told him that I would. And I would do it.
Uh-huh.
This is what I saw when I made that decision. I literally saw this. I saw like the stars in the heavens.
Uh-huh.
And they started to move and to rotate.
Yeah.
And at that moment, it changed. And I went into the stars and things were different. It had shifted.
Yeah.
That is what I believe as far as the Ontograph is concerned.
Yeah.
This is how I see the Ontograph in my own mind and my life and how I connect what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Is that my Ontograph is spiritual. Everything I do and everything I see, everything I touch, everything I visualize is so deeply. I don't see objects or people or things just as objects or peoples or things. I see things, they're more real to me. They're beautiful, they're spiritual, they're important. Every connection I make, everything that I study, everything that I read, everything that I'm a part of this event, everything, as far as my Ontograph is concerned, is spiritual. And because without the spiritual, in my opinion, what purpose is there in any of these things? What do they really mean? Yeah, they're just an object. People are not people. They're as Martin Buber, as he referred to it again, another philosopher, right? He referred to the I, it, I, thou. People see some people as its. Some people see them as thous. In other words, a person, an individual, feelings and desires and passions, and dreams. Other people see them as objects. As we see through the spiritual, we see them as they really, and they're real, and they're beautiful, and they're glorious. Those are just some of my thoughts.
I love that, Ben. Thank you.
Okay.